Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 22nd Annual Henry Ford Health System celebration of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s life. As we reflect on Dr. King's lasting legacy, we celebrate the progress we have made so far and challenge ourselves to question what actions can we take to further that progress. What more can we do to realize Dr. King's dream? Many organizations were awakened by the collective events of 2020. For us, it was not an awakening, but rather an opportunity to demonstrate greater commitment, a validation of what we've already done, and a mandate for setting audacious goals for the future. Over the last decade, Henry Ford Health System has created 10 employee resource groups, or ERGs, with over 2,000 participating team members. We've also developed a diversity forum composed of system leaders dedicated to creating a more inclusive environment. We've championed the Pursuing Equity in Patient Care Council and the Social Determinants of Health Council to address healthcare disparities in outcomes and their root causes. We formed a Supplier Diversity Council to create a level playing field for all vendors to compete. And we have talented people of color employed at every level of leadership in the organization. To further advance our work, we have developed a 5-year Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Social Justice Strategic Plan, we call DEIJ, with key measures of success to demonstrate how our organization will be a catalyst for positive change. We embrace the vision of equity for all, with great resolve and determination to build strong, healthy communities by removing barriers for our communities of color, creating equity in the care and coverage we provide, fostering an environment known for its powerful sense of belonging, and being a strong voice for change in our communities. We hope that you will join or continue with us on this journey and challenge yourself to question what more can you do to contribute to a world where everyone can truly thrive. Once again, thank you for choosing to celebrate with us. It now gives me great pleasure to introduce Wright Lassiter III, CEO and President of Henry Ford Health System.
Hearing the words of Dr. King, change does not roll in on the wheels of inevitability, but comes through continuous struggle. And so we must straighten our backs and work for our freedom. We are reminded that hope alone is not enough to drive the change we need. We must be courageous and willing to act on behalf of every life we serve by embracing the fight for justice. As leaders and stewards of health and well-being across our communities, we will not be comfortable as long as systemic injustices persist both inside and outside our organization. We have broadened our traditional view of healthcare with the goal of addressing the inherent structural challenges that continue to prevent wellness across our communities. Barriers include food and financial insecurity, lack of affordable housing and transportation, the absence of employment and educational opportunities, and safe neighborhoods. We all have a unique role in improving someone's life, regardless of where we find ourselves. We all have a responsibility to lift up those around us, meeting unmet needs, and fighting for those who struggle to be heard. Please take some time to visit our website, henryford.com, to learn more about the many ways you can serve our community virtually and safely this year.
Every year, Henry Ford recognizes change makers that are actively working to reduce healthcare disparities and show measurable improvements in the vulnerable communities we serve. This year's Health Equity and Leadership, or HEAL Award winner, is Hiram Jackson, Chief Executive Officer of Real Times Media, the largest owner of African American newspapers in the country. Mr. Jackson is an entrepreneur and philanthropist with a 30-year track record of success in business and community activism. Through his vision of leadership, Real Times Media has evolved from a traditional newspaper publisher into one of the country's leading creators of African American content across multiple platforms. Headquartered in Detroit, Real Times Media is a dynamic media company with 3 offices and programs in over 15 U.S. cities. In addition to its robust digital platform comprised of 8 websites geared toward African American interests, Real Times Media annually executes over 50 events across the nation. Concurrent to his role as CEO of Real Times Media, Hiram is managing partner of the real estate development firm Paradise Valley Real Estate Holdings, LLC, and the Ambient Group, a firm focused on the areas of strategy and investment. Prior to these ventures, he led Global View Technologies, an international technology services firm with revenues of more than $80 million. The consummate entrepreneur, being both imaginative and intuitive, Hiram has gained numerous acknowledgments and accolades. He has been profiled in several publications including Savoy Magazine, Diversity MBA Magazine, and Black Enterprise. Early career accolades include recognition as a top 40 under 40 leader by Crain's Detroit Business, and inclusion as one of Michigan's most powerful African American leaders by Corp Magazine. Mr. Jackson is the current chairman of the board of the Boys and Girls Club of Southeast Michigan and serves on the boards of the Charles H. Wright Museum of African American History and the Detroit branch of the NAACP. He was also recently reelected to the board of directors for the National Newspaper Publishers Association. Hiram earned a Bachelor of Science degree from the New York State School of Industrial and Labor Relations at Cornell University in Ithaca, New York, and is a 32-year member of the Omega Psi Phi Fraternity, Inc. He currently resides in Detroit with his wife, Kimberly Blue Jackson, and is the proud father of Hiram Eric Jackson III and Grace Jackson. And now let me introduce to some and present to others, Hiram Jackson.
We are here inside of Studio 1452 in downtown Detroit, the headquarters of Michigan Chronicle, and we are here with the publisher, Hiram Jackson, the recipient of the Health Equity and Leadership Award from Henry Ford Health System. Congratulations.
Thank you, sir.
As the largest owner of African American newspapers in the country, how do you balance the conversation of health equity now in the context of knowing your readers, African American, they've been dealing with health disparity for years, where for us, this conversation isn't new.
Right. Let me start, Andre. I just want to thank the entire Henry Ford Health System, all of the team members who are throughout southeastern Michigan, my good friend, CEO Wright Lassiter and his leadership team, and everyone who had a hand in bestowing upon me this great award. I really appreciate it. As you know, we work really hard on issues of racial and ethnic equity in the health space as well. So this is truly an honor, and I really appreciate the nod. To your point, Andre, what's really interesting is that the black press is roughly 200 years old. The first black newspaper was started in 1827 by 2 men who said, we wish to plead our own cause. For too long, others have spoken for us. So this is not new for the black press. This is what we do every day. We see injustice and inequality in all areas of American society. And so we've been calling out these inequities for 200 years. As you know, obviously I'm the publisher of the Michigan Chronicle, but we also own the Chicago Defender, which was started in 1905. We own the New Pittsburgh Courier, which was started in 1910, and the Atlanta Daily World, as well as the Atlanta Tribune. So roughly 120 years, we have been in the business, our organization has been in the business of fighting for justice and equality in a number of areas. Health being one. In fact, health being a priority. We have talked about high instances of diabetes and high blood pressure. infant mortality, women's health issues. And we've been doing that. Our organization has been doing that for 100 years. So during the most recent pandemic, and the what I call the racial awakening of America, all of these things were further exposed. But it just highlighted the work that we've been doing for over 100 years. Yeah. I would say about 2 years ago, we were working with the Pfizer Rare Disease Group when they were studying ATTR-CM, which is a rare heart disease that only impacts older black men. They came to the black press for help to get the word out about that. We worked with them with developing more diversity with clinical trials, with sickle cell therapy. We've been working on that for several years. So this recent awareness of these inequities in health delivery, health care, mobility as it relates to health care is something that we've been working on for decades.
As a country, years after Martin Luther King Jr.'s assassination, are we progressing or taking steps back when it comes to black people's rights, freedoms, and access and ability to vote?
I think that, obviously there's a lot of talk about voting rights right now. We're celebrating the Martin Luther King holidays, and the King family has obviously made it known that if you're going to celebrate Dr. King's birthday, that you do it in the context of voting rights or not do it at all, and I support that fully. And this issue of health equity and voting rights is actually, there's a nexus there. That would take too much time for this here, but let me just say this. In 2020, Americans voted in the presidential election at a rate higher than the last 100 years. That was true for Asians, that was true for Hispanics, and it was true for black people. And so I see the issue not as, partially as getting out to vote, but making sure that minorities and non-whites vote at a rate that's equal to whites. I think the last numbers I saw were that whites were voting at a rate of 70% or above, and non-whites were below 60, just below 60%. So I think the challenge is, number one, making sure that black people and other minorities are voting at the same rate. In order to do that, we can't just talk about the right to vote, but making sure that people who are in underserved communities have the right access. They have the right mobility. They have the right polling locations. The polling hours are adequate. So I think that what you see now with the For the People Act and the John Lewis Voting Act is a huge effort to make sure that these restrictions are reduced and that we adhere to the 1965 Voting Rights Act. And so I support the King family on this idea of either support the Voting Rights Act or don't celebrate my daddy's birthday. So I get that and I support that. But having said that, I think we're on the right path because we're fighting. And we've demonstrated that when we fight, we win. And so I think that there is an awareness out there in our community and our allies that if you are poor, if you're underserved, you deserve the right to vote. Complete access to polling places and the like. So I'm encouraged because we are aware and we're ready for the fight. And again, when we fight, we win.
Yeah. And touching in part to that point, on this national holiday, what is the answer to how we move forward? We talked earlier about, disparities in our community, but how do we move forward on this national holiday? Because, being a leader of a black media institution, you've been on the forefront, this company, in tackling and reporting on issues that matter to us. So how do we move forward on this National MLK Day?
I'm a big supporter. I'm a big believer in supporting entrepreneurship in the black community and in all underserved communities. So, and when you ask how do we move forward, there are two areas. Number one, I think the best and the brightest of us should double down on our commitment in terms of making sure that we are not only aware of the critical issues in our community, that we're prepared to do something about it, that we put action behind our thoughts. I have a dear friend, former Congressman Jesse Jackson Jr., that talks about the political system being the distribution system for the economic system. And basically what he says is that all advancement, things that we most care about, are born in the political system, and that we should be present in the political system, not just running for office, but taking appointments and being able to articulate the issues to our people. Business, commerce, community activism all comes from the political system. And so I think that is my answer. Get involved in politics. Get in where you fit in. Maybe you're not running for office, but you're working on a campaign. You're in the medical field and you're helping with health public policy. Whatever you need to do, get involved in the process so that we can help impact public policy and impact things like Black entrepreneurship or public policy around health equity. So I'm encouraged. I think that we have a great future. I'm honored again to receive this award. And let me end by saying that, this is the work that we do. Real Times Media is a collection of amazing Black media properties all over the country. And we get paid to keep our finger on the pulse of not only what Black people want and need, but we have the duty to make sure that other communities understand our community and articulate that properly.
Yeah. Being informed is key.
Absolutely.
Hiram Jackson, publisher of the Michigan Chronicle. Congratulations on this award, recipients of the Health Equity and Leadership Award on behalf of Henry Ford Health System.
Hiram, congratulations on a well-deserved honor. As I reflect on Dr. King, I'm reminded that his words are actually more powerful today than they even were when they were first delivered. And that's really quite phenomenal because many leaders that are aspirational leaders, change agents, their words sort of dissipate over time and the meaning is not as strong over time as it was when it was delivered. But as I think about the times we're in today, and I think about even the disparate impact that the pandemic is having on people of color, I realize that his words, his challenges, his insights are more important for us to really frame and use in our own actions, our own words, our own policy development, our own reflections and influence with others more than ever. So as you go from this program, please remember to not only reflect on Dr. King's words today, but work to realize his dream every day. We all play a role. Find ways that you can use your own unique talents, skills, and voice to positively impact your community. It can be overwhelming to think about what can I do in the midst of a 2-year pandemic or in the midst of some justice issues that really broke our hearts. But there is power in our own personal behavior. Every encounter that we have shapes the contagious nature of either positivity or negativity, or challenge to something that we know isn't right. So let's all take that as individuals. I'd like to repeat the quote shared by Wright Lassiter as we wind down the program. Change does not roll in on the wheels of inevitability, but comes through continuous struggle. And so we must straighten our backs and work for our freedom. Dr. King was incredibly, incredibly wise. Thank you all for viewing today's presentation.